So you would have heard that yesterday Sidney Lumet unfortunately died at the age of 86, and I wanted to make this video because I really feel that there are certain Hollywood personas that should be recognised throughout their life and after they have gone. Even though I'd seen Lumet films before, he sort of became my introduction into really great film made pre-1960s. I never used to be a big fan of, you know, older films, you know, films made before sort of 60s, but I would say it was about 8 years ago now, I sat down and watched 12 Angry Men for the first time, and it was brilliant. Totally changed my point of view on any movie made before 1960s, and I just went through like a slew of films that I'd heard were always great and avoided them simply because I thought naively that these films would have nothing to offer me, but I couldn't have been more wrong, and discovered some many great films because of 12 Angry Men, really. And 12 Angry Men is easily in my top 3 favourite films of all time, and I can't see it ever moving out of that really in any possible future. I think the performances are wonderful. For a film set in a single location, it's so invigorating, it's so enjoyable to watch, it's so thrilling, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Anyone who ever says to me, oh, you know, when around the time that Buried came out, and we get like 127 Hours, all these claustrophobic films came out, they're all set in a single location really, and someone asked me, like, other good films that are set in a single location, 12 Angry Men, you know, comes up instantly. It's the first film that I think of. And when people ask me what my favourite films are, I think 12 Angry Men definitely comes up as well. I think it's a flawless film. I can't see anything wrong with it. There's so many filmmakers in Hollywood now that just get caught in this loop of making the same sort of film, and the films with the same tones, and always trying to comment on the same social happenings of their time. And Sidney Lumet was one of these film directors that was never afraid to be versatile, never afraid to try something different. And if you take something like Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino, and then you take 2 years later he makes this film called The Wiz, which is a film that I really enjoyed as a kid. I haven't seen it for many years, but you take those two films, one of them is over here in the UK, I think it's probably 15 rated, you know, heist, sort of drama thriller, cop film about 2 bank robbers, and it sort of comments on media, the times of television and things like that, and how news spreads. And the other one, The Wiz, is a adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, but with I think it's an entire African American cast, and it's got Michael Jackson in it as the Scarecrow. It's this really sort of fun family comedy, just totally different from Dog Day Afternoon, and they were only made 2 years after away from each other and made by the same director, and it really is a credit to his style and his attitude to be versatile and be able to make any sort of film and make it well. Other than 12 Angry Men, he really is a director who's made some outstanding films, and many would say that he hit his stride in sort of the 70s with films like Network, Serpico, Failsafe. I think Failsafe was the 70s. Murder on the Orient Express is a really great film. If you've never seen Murder on the Orient Express, I love that film. Network was the last Sidney Lumet film that I had to watch, and I only watched Network for the first time about a year ago, and it's brilliant. It's fantastic. And then you go into the 80s, and he made the Paul Newman film The Verdict, which is another film that I really like. I think it was one of Paul Newman's best performances, maybe shy of his performance in The Sting. And in the 80s he also made Family Business, and Family Business is probably regarded as the worst Sidney Lumet film maybe, but I really enjoyed it when I first saw it. It was one of my favourite films to rent from the video shop. I was born in the 80s, and Matthew Broderick, who was in War Games and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so I watched it. Sean Connery, who was James Bond to me at that time, and Dustin Hoffman, who was an actor I wasn't too familiar with at the time, but I think good performances from all three. It's not a flawless movie, it's not his best film, but I don't think it's that bad. The last film that he made before he passed was in 2007. That was Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, and that film's got Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke. Now the film is not great. For the time it came out, it was overshadowed by a lot of other films that came out in 2007, but totally underrated. In terms of, I checked out his IMDb score and it's in the 7s, and for me, if I was going to give it a score on IMDb, it would be up there, in the 8s, 8.5 maybe. It's a really good film, has two great performances from Hawke and Hoffman, so totally worth checking it out. If you've never experienced any Lumet films, I want to take this opportunity to recommend you check out 3. If you're ever going to check out any. 12 Angry Men. It was his first feature film. He came from TV direction, so and it's my favourite, and I think it is the best Sidney Lumet film. Then skip right to the end of his career, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Totally worth checking out. I think two great performances, and such a nice comparison to compare his first film to his last film. And then we'll go smack bang in the middle. For me, his shining light of the film of the 70s, one of the best films from that era that I know, Network. So 12 Angry Men, Network, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. I think those 3 films you can't go wrong with. You will probably not see 3 better films this year. You might see a film better than Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, but I think that 3 lineup would be a good, Friday, Saturday night. It's a sad thing because I don't think we may never ever have another director who's so socially conscious about the films that he makes and the statements that he's making on the times that he's making the films and the times that the films are set in. You don't get many directors who are like that, and because he directed in so many decades, he directed in 50, 60, 70, directing for like 50 years more, 50 plus years, and always remained socially conscious of the messages that he was putting in his films and the times that he was commenting on.